Ferndale Farm. We are going into year 4, Oklahoma flower farm that sells retail market bouquets from our roadside stand. And today we are planting anemones. In the past, we've planted ranunculus and anemones on the same day, but because this year we planted 2,000 ranunculus, it was just too much to get done in one day. So we've had to split up the planting days, which I also thought would make for a great video because we've never actually done an anemone only. Anemones are planted and treated a lot like ranunculus. If you're also growing ranunculus, we now have 2 ranunculus videos. I'll link in the description for you to look at if you'd like to see that. We actually have 3 technically. I'll link all of them. But today's anemones, we grew them for the first time last year, so we sold them in the spring. I'm copying everything we did again since it went well, but oh my goodness, the anemones were beautiful. They did fantastic in our tunnel. Our customers loved them. I was a little nervous because tulips are so popular and ranunculus are just like incredible. I was like, how are people going to respond to the anemones because they probably haven't seen them before, maybe not be as familiar. But I think in particular the colors I chose because they were so bright and vibrant and they were some of the first to bloom on our farm. Eric's moving a cat. Our customers were super intrigued by them and really loved them. And so we've upped the amount. We grew 300 last year. We're growing 700 this year. And I added a couple different colors. So I wanted to show you that here. We have them soaking just like we soak ranunculus corms. We soak them for about 2 or 3 hours. Anemones look like, Eric said shark teeth. I've heard like acorns, but they're like hard little nut things. And they're a lot easier to plant than ranunculus, I think, because ranunculus are like those octopus that are kind of tender and you don't want to break off the legs and stuff. These guys are much hardier, and so I find that I can pop them in much faster. So planting 700 should go a lot faster than ranunculus would, but they still need to soak. And let's go through with pretty pictures, which is my favorite part, all of the varieties.
We our own pictures?
Yeah, we get to do our own pictures for the last batch, which is exciting because we did those so well and we're growing them again. But because the anemones did so well, I wanted to add, some more colors to our lineup. And so these that I'm going to go over, I haven't grown this series before. It's the Mistral. I always get upset or in trouble with my pronunciation. But we got these from Onings, and it's the Mistral. That's how you would pronounce it, right? Wouldn't you say Mistral?
You're asking your husband?
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Mistral?
No.
Maestral?
Maybe.
Maestral?
Well, it's Italian.
Maestro.
Oh my gosh. Stop it with the accents. Maestro. If you know how to pronounce it, it'll be interesting.
Mistral.
Well, no. I don't know. We're moving on. The first one, the first one we got was, oh gosh, this is hard too because I would have said tiger.
Is it silent G?
No, it's T-I-G-R-E. So is it Tigra? Oh my gosh, people are like
Maestro.
People are like yelling at the screen right now. They're like, they're such
idiots. Italian fans.
Right. Italians. I know. They're like, they're such idiots. They're such Americans. Whatever. Tiger wine. 200 of them. I think they look beautiful. The next one is the same series, and this one.
Should have shown the name.
I know. I mean, whatever. Tiger wine. Sounds funny. It's like Tiger King. Tiger wine. And this one is magenta. All 3 of these are in the purple family because the other ones are not purple, and I just thought purple is beautiful. I'm not doing white, even though I personally think the panda white, where it's the white petals and the black center, is absolutely beautiful. White is just not the best for retail. Our customers really like bright, bold, punchy colors, and white is much more event and wedding. And even though they look beautiful and I really like them, I didn't decide to go with white. So these are all like variants of purple. The last one is fuchsia. Last one is fuchsia. And then I reordered what we grew last year. These are from Leo Burby, and the series is Jerusalem. There's a Jerusalem and a Galilee. And Leo says in their description that Galilee is better for northern climates and Jerusalem does a bit better with the heat in the summer, which is definitely us in Oklahoma. So we grew Jerusalem last year, and our first bloom was February 2nd, but with anemones, they start short and they get taller. So it like literally was like this big. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? But they bloomed from a cuttable length mid-March through mid-April. So we got probably 4 or 5 weeks out of them, which was longer than the ranunculus. So they definitely did well in our heat. But this first one is Jerusalem Pink, which we can put our picture on the screen because we grew them, and it's like a bright, in-your-face pink. Yeah, it was just like, oh my gosh. But the one that I ordered more of because it's just so unique and people really commented on it and stuff on our Facebook is Jerusalem Blue. And it's almost like a true blue, which is pretty rare. And it looked awesome with the pinks and the yellows and the oranges of our tulips. It just really shined in our bouquets, and I loved them. So we have 700 to plant. They're going to soak here for 2 or 3 hours, and then we'll head out to the tunnel and we'll put our Hortanova netting grid down over top our soil, which is like 6-inch blocks. And I'm just going to pop them all the way in there and make sure they're well watered. And they should sprout above ground in about 2 or 3 weeks, depending on our soil and our temperature. We do not pre-sprout. We don't pre-sprout our ranunculus typically because Oklahoma winters and late fall more mild. Our soil temperature is not too cold. We don't really need that head start quite as much. And it just saves with cost and labor because we don't have to buy the soil. We don't have to spend time pre-sprouting them in trays and then planting them again. We can get them directly out into the tunnel. It's what we did last year and it worked really well. So we're just repeating what has been successful before. But these guys are going to soak, they're going to plump up, and then we'll check back with you guys. I'll probably have a much gruddier outfit on because I'll be getting muddy in the tunnel, and we'll get planting. So life happened and we filmed the part of the video that you just watched like maybe 2 weeks ago, but it was like Thanksgiving and Christmas stuff and homeschool was finishing and just life happened. But we did get all 700 planted here. We had 2 sections of ranunculus that went in this row, and then we had our 700 anemones went here. Ignore our weed problem that we're working on right now because again, life got super busy, but they're just about starting to sprout. So we planted them about 2 weeks ago. They're kind of slow to start. So probably in the next week, so probably 3 weeks since planting, I'll really start seeing them come up, but I'm barely starting to see some of them unfurl, which is fine because last year I planted them too early and they started really blooming and pumping out sellable stems before our flower stand opened because the tulips weren't ready yet. And I don't want that. So I'm fine that they haven't sprouted yet because I don't want them blooming in February and early March. I want them to start going like mid-March through mid-April, and they can go in our tulip bouquets and with our ranunculus and snapdragons. But on our Facebook group that we have, the link is in the description, I asked people for some anemone questions that maybe I can answer here at the end of the video. And we have a couple good questions, so I'll go over them here for you guys. Someone wants to know, they'd love to know if there's any differences apart from cost in growing from seed. So I've never heard of a flower farm growing anemones from seed. I don't know if it's a different variety than you want for cut flowers or what the process is. I've never heard of that. So personally, I would not advise that. I would do what the farm's industry standard is, which is to buy corms and do it that way. Best varieties for longer stems. So most of them are going to have long stems, but before you buy corm, especially from like Leo Burby and Ball and stuff, you can look up the variety and they almost always give you the stem length. That's the same for tulips. They give you the stem length that'll say like 12 to 18 inches or 18 inches to 24 inches. And that's going to tell you what you're going to get. And I would order the varieties that have longer stems, unless you have a very particular reason why you need a certain variety, say for a florist, and they know the stems are going to be shorter and that doesn't matter to them. Look for the longer stems and you'll see that on the order. I know Onings does it, Ball does it, Leo does it. They give you the stems. We're growing Jerusalem, which was great. And we're trialing the Mistral series, and those are also going to be long stemmed. So that's the best way to find the long stem ones. Someone said they're curious if we sell them as straight bunches or if we pair with any other flowers. So last year, again, because they bloomed so early, I was forced to sell them in straight bunches because I had nothing else. But because it was the first flower blooming on our farm, our customers were crazy about them. They also loved the colors. And most people have never seen anemones before, unless maybe it was in their bridal bouquet. So straight bunches was super popular. But my goal is to have them be a complement to ranunculus and tulips tulips and snapdragons. That's the timing I'm going for. So check back in the spring if we achieve the timing. But again, if they're early, I will sell them as straight bunches, and I think our customers will love them, particularly because the colors are bold and bright and interesting. They're one of the first flowers to bloom, and the vase life is really long. So customers love anemones, or at least ours do. And then someone asked if we could touch base on thrips and aphid management. They watched our video with Jenny about pulling the plants that are infected, and they just had a heck of a time with thrips and aphids. To be honest, on our channel, Eric and I kind of shy away from talking about pest management, only because it's so detailed and specific, and like it's a fairly technical subject, and it takes trial and error and stuff. But I will tell you, our process in the tunnel is if we find a plant that's infested with adult aphids or thrips, we are going to pull that plant, get it out of the tunnel, and burn it. And then we're going to do a regular maintenance of pyrethrin, which should hopefully keep us on top of not getting an infestation. That's our process. This is going to be our second year in the tunnel, so we'll probably do more videos if we have problems or if we're successful. But the best thing to do, honestly, I think, is to contact your local extension office, or research like Cornell University or Oklahoma State University, some of them that are doing the more specific studies about that pest management, and read their research papers of what they recommend. That's going to be much better than a bit more of like anecdotal advice that we might have. Another question they have is storing corms. They bought too many. Could you store for next year? No, they won't keep. Tulip bulbs, ranunculus, all of that, they're not going to keep. You need to plant them. There's still time to plant them. Get them in the ground, or get them in crates if you don't have bed space. But if you have crates, get them in crates, plant them, or you're going to lose them, or sell them. Maybe there's another local person that might want them. Sell them at a profit or at cost, but don't try to store them and keep them for next season. That won't work. Can they be stored like ranunculus corms? Yes, but again, don't keep them past a season. You need to get them planted. But if you're getting ready to plant them, they want just a cool, dark space. Someone said they left theirs in ground and they didn't die back, and they're coming back in the fall. Will they bloom again in the spring? Maybe. We don't keep anything in ground because the flower farming process is to treat these as annuals, not perennials. So all of ours get dug up. That's the standard process in the industry for tunnel grown spring flowers, is you treat them as annuals. You're not perennializing them. So I'm not sure what will happen. I guess you could experiment, but I wouldn't make that a process going forward to rely on for, specialty cut premium flowers. You want to be growing them as annuals. Someone said they planted them in the fall and now they're causing them to bloom. What do I do? Will they bloom again in the spring? Again, I don't know. That obviously was an error of planting them that early in the fall in a warmer climate. You're going to want to wait next year to not plant yours until probably now, mid-December, to not have that bloom happen. So the best is, maybe you can try to sell what they'll give. You can leave them in ground unless you need the real estate to see what they do. But I would be kind of surprised if they rebloomed. But again, lesson learned. That's just what happens. And the last question is, do you dig them up or can they stay in beds? You need to dig them up, either to save them, which again is not an industry process. People are not typically saving their corms. They're treating them as annuals. Or you can do what, we just pull them up. You can chop them down. You can till them in. But most of flower farming, you guys, is treating everything as annuals and not perennials, unless it's clearly a perennial shrub, like a peony, a hydrangea, 9-bark, all of that. Those are clearly perennial plants. But the things that are bulbs and seeds, they're just not being treated as perennials, even if you could do that in your garden. That's not the process of flower farming. And I think that'd make a great video maybe over the winter of talking about maybe ways that flower farming is different from gardening, even if you're growing the same plant. So I know people think it's wasteful or there's a cost to it, and there is, but that's kind of flower farming. That's just how it's done on an industry scale. And if you watched our interview with Jenny Marks, she did talk about how that's an important mindset shift to have when you're flower farming, is to treat it like you're an industrial commercial flower farmer. You're not a backyard gardener that would maybe treat some of these plants very differently. Hopefully this is helpful. I feel encouraged. I don't love the weeds, but we have a plan to get on top of them. But our ranunculus are sprouting. Our anemones are growing roots. I dug one up to check, so I think they're going to be fine. Our campanula at the back is pushing new growth. So we're really just entering into maintenance mode. Eric worked today on getting the rest of our low hoops in. So it's just going to be a lot of opening the tunnel, closing the low tunnels, off and on for 2 months, and then March we'll really start getting ready for our season starting. But thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.